There's something quietly mysterious about the Pokéball resting in your pocket. A smooth sphere whose purpose seems simple until you notice the weight of secrets it carries. Every trainer knows how it feels in the hand, yet few ever question how such a small object learned to hold entire worlds. Long before factories perfected its shape, ancient Hisuian artisans carved early versions from apricorns, crafting shells that behaved unpredictably, some heavy enough to restrain creatures like Hisuian Snorlax, others light enough to reach Starly before they scattered into the branches. These forgotten designs hint at an evolution far stranger than most realize. And before we drift any further, make sure to subscribe so once we reach 1,000 subs, I can reduce the ads. And tell me where you're watching from tonight. Our story begins in a time before convenience, before the polished aisles of Pokemarts stretched across every city corner. Picture the rugged terrain of Hisui thousands of years ago, where humans and Pokemon existed in tentative balance, neither fully trusting the other. Back then, capture wasn't a guaranteed act, but a ritual steeped in trial and patience. Apricorns grew wild on sturdy trees scattered throughout the region, their tough outer shells ripening into vivid shades of red, blue, yellow, pink, white, green, and black. Each color carried a different energy, a subtle resonance that artisans learned to read over generations. Selecting the right apricorn wasn't just practical, it was almost spiritual, a match between the color's essence and the Pokemon's nature. Black apricorns seemed to hum with shadow, perfect for ghost or dark types that thrived in twilight. White apricorns felt neutral and calm, suited for normal types that carried no elemental fury. Red apricorns burned with warmth, ideal for fire types or creatures with fierce temperaments. These weren't scientific classifications, just observations passed down through whispered tradition. The crafting process itself demanded patience that modern trainers rarely experience. An artisan would hollow out the apricorn's interior, carving away the dense pulp until only the shell remained. Then came fermentation, a slow alchemical process involving pastes made from berries, minerals, and sometimes even ground bone. The mixture was sealed inside, left to cure for days or weeks, depending on the season. When the apricorn ball was finally ready, it felt different in the hand, lighter than modern designs, but somehow more alive. The wood grain visible beneath thin lacquer, the faint scent of berries still clinging to the surface. Throwing one required intuition, an understanding of arc and timing that came only through repeated failure. These early captures were fragile affairs, nothing like the reliable click of today's mechanisms. A poorly thrown apricorn ball might bounce off a Pokemon's hide, startling it into aggression. Even a well-aimed throw offered no guarantees the Pokemon might thrash free, shattering the wooden shell into splinters. Trainers learned to approach each encounters with reverence, knowing they might only get one chance. Pokemon Legends. Arceus offers the clearest glimpse into this ancient methodology, where Pokeballs are still considered revolutionary tools rather than commonplace items. In that era, most people interacted with Pokemon as companions or adversaries, not possessions. The idea of miniaturizing a creature into a portable sphere was seen as almost mystical, a technology whispered about in villages, like fire must have been to early humans. Kurt, the master craftsman in Azalea Town during later Johto adventures, represents the last living link to this tradition. He still carves apricorn balls by hand, refusing to embrace mass production even as the world rushes past him. When you bring him a blue apricorn, he doesn't simply craft a lure ball, he performs a small act of historical preservation, keeping alive techniques that most trainers will never witness. The colors themselves held folklore significance beyond their practical applications. Yellow apricorns were said to carry the speed of lightning, used for creating fast balls that excelled against a quick-footed Pokémon. Green apricorns resonated with nature, producing friend balls that fostered immediate bonds. Pink apricorns, the rarest of all, bloomed only once every few years and were reserved for love balls, devices that worked best when capturing Pokémon of the opposite gender to your own. These color theories weren't entirely superstition. There was something in the chemical composition of each apricorn variety that influenced the ball's effectiveness. Modern analysis has revealed trace minerals and organic compounds unique to each color, suggesting the old artisans understood more about material science than they're often credited for. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, it's worth noting that apricorn balls weren't the only ancient capture method. Some regions developed alternative techniques, nets woven from silk produced by spinnerack, tranquilizing darts carved from oddish roots, even elaborate traps that required days to construct. But apricorn balls became the standard because they balanced portability with reliability in ways other methods couldn't match. The transition from handcrafted apricorn technology to industrialized production didn't happen overnight. Historical records from various regions point to a gradual shift spanning several decades in the early 20th century. Researchers across Kanto, Johto, and Hoenn were all experimenting with synthetic materials, trying to replicate the apricorn's natural containment properties using metal and plastic composites. The breakthrough came around 1925, though the exact details remain frustratingly vague in most historical accounts. A researcher, often unnamed in official documentation due to clerical inconsistencies, successfully created the first mass-producible Poké Ball design. This wasn't just a technical achievement, it was a paradigm shift that would reshape human-Pokémon relationships forever. The new design featured a standardized catch rate, a measurable 1x multiplier that became the baseline for all future variations. No longer would success depend entirely on the thrower's skill or the ball's individual quirks. Instead, probability became calculable, turning capture into a game of statistics rather than pure chance. Metal hinges replaced wooden seams, ensuring the ball could open and close thousands of times without degrading. A button mechanism on the front allowed trainers to activate the capture sequence with a simple press, no more fumbling with caps or stoppers. The interior housed a miniaturization field that converted Pokémon into energy, storing them in a pocket dimension where they remained comfortable and healthy. This spatial distortion technology remains one of the Pokémon world's most remarkable scientific achievements, even if it's often taken for granted. The ball doesn't simply shrink a Pokémon down, it translates the creature into a different dimensional state entirely. Inside, the Pokémon experiences a space calibrated to its needs, temperature, humidity, even ambient sounds all optimized for comfort. The iconic red and white color scheme wasn't arbitrary either. Red signaled danger and action, catching the eye during intense battles. White provided contrast, making the ball easy to spot if dropped in tall grass or dim caves. Together, they created a visual identity so strong that even today, decades later, most people can recognize a Pokéball's silhouette instantly. Production facilities sprang up across major cities, churning out thousands of Pokéballs daily to meet exploding demand. Suddenly, anyone with a few hundred Poké dollars could pursue training as a serious vocation. Children who grew up watching their parents struggle with handmade apricorn balls could now stock up on reliable equipment before setting out on their journeys. This democratization of capture technology accelerated the growth of competitive battling, Pokémon research, and even conservation efforts. Scientists could now safely catch and study rare species without relying on scarce handcrafted tools. Trainers could build diverse teams without worrying about running out of functional balls mid-journey. But as Pokemon populations swelled and human settlements expanded into once wild territories, researchers quickly realized that a one-size-fits-all approach had limitations. Different Pokemon exhibited different capture resistances. Water types thrashed violently when caught on land, dark types seemed to resist standard fields more effectively, and legendary Pokemon could shatter regular balls through sheer willpower. This recognition sparked the great diversification of Pokéball technology, a research race that continues to this day. If the most basic Pokéball was humanity's first answer to coexistence, then specialized variants became increasingly refined questions, each asking how to achieve perfect harmony between trainer and Pokemon across every possible scenario. The Great Ball emerged as the first major upgrade roughly 15 years after the original Pokéball's introduction. Engineers had been studying capture failure rates and noticed consistent patterns. Certain Pokemon species broke free more often than statistical models predicted. The issue wasn't the ball's structural integrity, but the strength of the containment field itself. By increasing the field's intensity and stability, researchers created a device with a 1.5 times catch rate multiplier. This improvement might sound modest on paper, but in practice it meant the difference between success and failure against moderately powerful wild Pokemon. Trainers venturing into deeper forests or more treacherous caves suddenly had better odds of bringing back the partners they encountered. The Great Ball's blue and red color scheme distinguished it visually from its predecessor, signaling higher quality at a glance. Its slightly larger size accommodated enhanced circuitry and a more robust energy matrix. The price increased accordingly, but most trainers considered it a worthwhile investment once they reached intermediate skill levels. Then came the Ultra Ball, and with it, a new standard for high-stakes captures. With a 2 times catch rate multiplier, this black and yellow sphere became the go-to choice for serious trainers tackling elite challenges. Its containment field was strong enough to hold even pseudo-legendary Pokemon like Dragonite or Metagross, creatures whose power levels would have overwhelmed earlier designs. The Ultra Ball's development involved breakthrough research into multi-layered energy matrices. Instead of a single containment field, it generated 3 nested layers that reinforced each other. Even if a powerful Pokemon disrupted the innermost layer, the outer fields would compress inward, maintaining capture integrity. This redundancy made failures far less common, though never impossible. Veteran trainers quickly adopted Ultra Balls as their standard equipment, relegating basic Pokeballs to early route encounters. The cost was significantly higher, but for someone hunting rare Pokemon in Victory Road or attempting to complete their Pokédex, the investment paid for itself through reduced frustration. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, we should pause to consider the Master Ball, the apex of capture technology, and perhaps the most controversial device in Pokemon history. Unlike other balls that improve success rates, the Master Ball guarantees capture with absolute certainty. No escape attempts, no possibility of failure, just instant, irreversible acquisition. Only a handful of Master Balls exist per region, manufactured under extreme secrecy and distributed to a select few individuals. Regional professors sometimes provide one to particularly promising trainers, while criminal organizations have been known to steal prototypes from research facilities. The Sylph Company in Kanto holds the original patents, though they've never mass-produced the device for ethical reasons. The Master Ball's containment field operates on principles that border on theoretical physics. It doesn't just suppress a Pokemon's will to escape, it creates a dimensional lock so absolute that even legendaries like Mewtwo or Rayquaza cannot break free. This raises profound questions about consent and autonomy that the Pokemon world continues to grapple with. Most experienced trainers view the Master Ball as both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it offers a guaranteed solution to impossibly difficult captures. On the other, its very existence feels like cheating, removing the challenge and uncertainty that make wild encounters meaningful. Many trainers save their Master Ball indefinitely, paralyzed by the fear of wasting it on the wrong Pokemon. The philosophical implications extend beyond individual choice. If technology can completely override a Pokemon's agency, what does that mean for the trainer-Pokemon relationship? Does a creature caught in a Master Ball truly choose to partner with you, or is it simply incapable of doing otherwise? These questions linger in academic circles, unresolved and perhaps unresolvable. If you're still awake halfway through, maybe subscribe before you drift off, and tell me what time it is where you're watching from. From this foundation of standardized and upgraded balls, specialization truly began. Engineers and Pokemon researchers started asking more nuanced questions about when, where, and why captures succeeded or failed. The answers led to an explosion of niche designs, each optimized for specific circumstances that general-purpose balls handled poorly. The Timer Ball exemplifies this targeted approach. Researchers observed that longer battles created a psychological effect on wild Pokemon, gradually wearing down their resistance, not through damage, but through sustained engagement. The Timer Ball exploits this phenomenon mechanically, its catch rate multiplier increasing with each turn that passes in battle. Starting at a base multiplier of 1 times, the Timer Ball's effectiveness grows exponentially up to a maximum of 4 times after 10 turns. This makes it invaluable for battles against particularly defensive Pokemon or when employing stall tactics. A trainer might intentionally prolong an encounter, using status moves and healing items to outlast the wild Pokemon's stamina while the Timer Ball's power builds. The device's white and red coloring with clock hand markings serves as both aesthetic choice and practical reminder. Trainers can glance at their ball selection and instantly recognize which tool rewards patience. This visual language becomes second nature to experienced players, allowing split-second decisions during intense encounters. Quick balls represent the opposite philosophy, rewarding immediate action over prolonged engagement. With a 5 times catch rate multiplier on the very first turn of battle, dropping to 1 times on subsequent turns, these turquoise and yellow spheres encourage aggressive opening moves. The strategy centers on catching Pokemon before they can mount effective resistance or flee. This approach works brilliantly for skittish species known to run from battle, or for trainers who prefer efficiency over drawn-out encounters. The Quick Ball's design reflects urgency in every detail, from its lightning bolt pattern to its slightly lighter weight that enables faster throws. Some trainers stock up on dozens, viewing failed Quick Ball attempts as acceptable losses if even 1 in 5 succeeds immediately. The repeat ball takes a completely different angle, focusing on Pokemon species the trainer has already captured. Its 3.5 times multiplier applies only to species registered in the trainer's Pokédex as owned, making it perfect for completing living Pokédexes or hunting specific natures and abilities within a species. This specialization makes repeat balls economically efficient for dedicated collectors. Rather than burning through expensive Ultra Balls to catch a 5th Eevee while searching for the perfect nature, trainers can use cheaper repeat balls with better success rates. The ball's yellow and black pattern with circular motifs suggests cycles and recurrence, a visual metaphor for its recursive functionality. Nest balls target low-level Pokémon specifically, with effectiveness that scales inversely with the target's level. Against a level 1 Pokémon, a nest ball boasts an impressive 8 times multiplier. By level 30, it drops to 1 times, making it useless against high-level threats, but incredible for early route encounters or newly hatched baby Pokémon. This design serves multiple purposes beyond simple capture efficiency. It encourages trainers to catch and train Pokémon from early stages rather than seeking out already powerful specimens. It also supports breeding operations, where newly hatched Pokémon need to be sorted and stored quickly. The nest ball's green and yellow coloring evokes imagery of eggs and new growth, reinforcing its thematic connection to young Pokémon. Luxury balls prioritize the post-capture experience over capture mechanics. With only a standard 1x catch rate, they offer no advantage during the throw itself. However, Pokémon caught in luxury balls gain friendship at an accelerated rate, growing attached to their trainers more quickly than those in standard balls. This accelerated bonding proves valuable for species whose evolution depends on high friendship, like Golbat into Crobat or Eevee into Espeon and Umbreon. The luxury ball's elegant black and gold design with ornate detailing suggests premium quality, and many trainers use them on their favorite team members as a sign of respect and commitment. The psychological impact extends beyond game mechanics. Trainers report feeling more connected to Pokémon housed in luxury balls, though whether this reflects the ball's effects or simple projection remains debatable. Either way, the luxury ball represents an important recognition that capture is just the beginning of a much longer relationship. Heal balls address a specific quality of life concern, automatically restoring a captured Pokémon to full health and curing all status conditions upon successful capture. This pink and white sphere, with medical cross markings, saves trainers the hassle of immediately healing their new partner after a difficult battle. While its catch rate remains standard at 1 times, the convenience factor makes heal balls popular for consecutive captures in areas far from Pokémon centers. A trainer exploring a remote cave system might catch several Pokémon in succession, each emerging from its heal ball fully restored and ready for battle if needed. This utility has made the heal ball a staple in many trainers' inventories, despite its lack of capture bonuses. Dusk balls shine in specific environmental conditions, literally and figuratively. With a 3.5 times catch rate multiplier in caves or at night, these black and green spheres excel in low-light scenarios where many rare Pokémon prefer to appear. The restriction is narrow but powerful, turning challenging nighttime hunts into manageable encounters. Trainers quickly learned to exploit this specialization, scheduling their rare Pokémon hunts for after sunset or specifically targeting cave systems where the Dusk Ball's bonus always applies. The ball's dark coloring with green highlights evokes shadows and mysterious depths, perfectly matching its intended use case. Level balls harken back to older mechanics from Johto's apricorn traditions, offering improved catch rates based on the trainer's active Pokémon's level compared to the wild target. If your Pokémon is more than twice the target's level, the multiplier reaches 4 times. Between double and quadruple, it's 2 times. Below double, it drops to 1 times. This creates interesting strategic decisions around party composition when hunting specific Pokémon. A trainer might deliberately bring a high-level partner to maximize level ball effectiveness, even if that partner isn't ideal for actually battling the target. The level ball's red and black design with scale-like patterns suggests hierarchies in measurement, appropriate for its level-based mechanics. Lure balls specialize in Pokémon encountered while fishing, boasting a 5 times catch rate multiplier for any species hooked with a rod. This makes them essential equipment for trainers pursuing water-type collections or hunting rare fishing-exclusive species like Phoebus. The blue design with hook imagery leaves no ambiguity about its purpose. Heavy balls represent a revival of ancient apricorn technology, working best on particularly massive Pokémon. Species like Snorlax, Steelix, or Wailord experience significantly increased capture rates when targeted with heavy balls. The device's increased weight makes it difficult to throw far, but close-range encounters with heavyweight Pokémon render this drawback irrelevant. The heavy ball's blue-gray coloring and bulkier construction communicate its purpose through pure physicality. Trainers can feel the difference the moment they pick one up, the satisfying heft promising effectiveness against the game's largest species. Love balls leverage gender dynamics, working best when the target Pokémon is the opposite gender from the trainer's active Pokémon. The 8 times multiplier in these scenarios makes love balls incredibly powerful when conditions align, though useless when they don't. This unpredictability creates a risk-reward calculation that some trainers embrace while others avoid. The pink color scheme and heart motifs clearly communicate the ball's romantic thematics, though the mechanics themselves operate through pheromonal chemistry rather than actual affection. Still, the love ball's niche appeal has made it popular among certain trainer communities who appreciate its quirky specialization. Moon balls target Pokémon that evolve via Moonstone, offering a 4 times catch rate bonus against species like Nidorino, Clefairy, Jigglypuff, and Munna. This narrow focus makes moon balls highly situational, but trainers hunting these specific species appreciate having a dedicated tool. The ball's blue and yellow coloring with crescent moon imagery creates a dreamy, nocturnal aesthetic. Friend balls prioritize relationship building over capture difficulty, setting a caught Pokémon's initial friendship to maximum immediately upon capture. While the 1 times catch rate offers no mechanical advantage during the throw, the instant maximum friendship proves valuable for quickly evolving friendship-dependent species or simply establishing rapport with new team members. The friend ball's green and red design with cheerful patterns suggests warmth and approachability, matching its relationship-focused functionality. Many trainers keep a few in reserve, specifically for Pokémon they plan to use competitively, valuing the time saved on friendship grinding. Fast balls excel against Pokémon with high base speed stats or those known to flee quickly. With a 4 times catch rate multiplier, these yellow and blue spheres turn frustrating chase sequences into manageable encounters. Species like Abra, which teleports away after a single turn, or the legendary beasts who roam across entire regions, become reasonable targets when approached with fastball strategies. The design's lightning bolt motifs and bright coloring suggest velocity and urgency, appropriate for a device meant to catch the quickest creatures in the Pokémon world. Experienced trainers learn to recognize high-speed threats and switch to fast balls preemptively, maximizing their chances before the target escapes. Sport balls exist primarily as event-exclusive items, distributed during bug-catching contests or special competitions. Their catch rate remains standard, but their rarity and unique red and white pattern with decorative details make them prized collectibles. Trainers often use sport balls on favorite Pokémon simply for the aesthetic appeal and bragging rights. Safari balls appear only within safari zones, special preserves, where traditional battling is prohibited. These yellow and camouflage green spheres replace standard Pokeballs in these restricted areas, forcing trainers to rely on bait and rock-throwing strategies rather than combat. The 1.5 times catch rate helps compensate for the inability to weaken targets through battle. Safari mechanics create a completely different capture experience, more methodical and patience-focused than standard encounters. Trainers must observe Pokemon behavior, predicting whether to use bait to reduce flee chances or throw rocks to improve catch rates at the cost of potentially scaring the target away. Safari balls become tools in a unique minigame rather than straightforward capture devices. Park balls appear in regions with special Pokemon catching parks or preserves similar to Safari balls, but with their own distinct mechanics and restrictions. These yellow and green spheres typically offer guaranteed captures within their designated areas, turning the challenge from "can I catch this Pokemon" to "can I find and approach this Pokemon before time runs out or step limits expire." Dream balls entered the scene through more mystical means, originally associated with the Dream World feature that allowed trainers to encounter Pokemon with hidden abilities. These pink and purple spheres with ethereal swirl patterns capture a dreamlike aesthetic that matches their unusual origins. Dream balls work particularly well on sleeping Pokemon, offering a 4 times catch rate multiplier against drowsy targets. The connection between sleep and capture creates interesting strategic possibilities. Trainers might deliberately put wild Pokemon to sleep, using moves like Hypnosis or Spore, then capitalize on the Dream Ball's boosted effectiveness. This synergy between battle strategy and equipment choice represents the kind of depth that keeps capture mechanics engaging across hundreds of hours of gameplay. Beast Balls represent specialized technology developed to capture Ultra Beasts, extra-dimensional creatures that appeared in Alola. These white and blue spheres with glowing accents fail spectacularly against normal Pokemon, offering only a 0.1 times catch rate that makes captures nearly impossible. However, against Ultra Beasts specifically, they provide a 5 times multiplier that makes them the only practical option. This extreme specialization reflects the fundamental alienness of Ultra Beasts, creatures so different from native Pokemon that standard containment technology simply doesn't work. The Beast Ball's design needed to account for exotic energy signatures and dimensional instabilities that regular Pokeballs were never built to handle. The visual design emphasizes foreignness and advanced technology, with its clinical white color scheme and geometric patterns suggesting scientific precision over natural materials. Trainers venturing through ultraspace to hunt these bizarre creatures learn to stock up on Beast Balls exclusively, rendering their standard equipment temporarily useless. Cherish Balls exist primarily as event-exclusive containers for special Pokemon distributions. These red spheres, with golden accents and ribbon patterns, hold gifted Pokemon from official events, mythicals distributed through promotions, or other unique specimens that Game Freak wants to mark as special. While their catch rate in standard gameplay remains 1 times, trainers cannot obtain them normally, making any Pokemon housed in a Cherish Ball notable. The ball serves as a certificate of authenticity, marking legitimate event Pokemon and preventing counterfeiting through breeding or manipulation. Collectors value Cherish Balls highly, often preserving event Pokemon in their original containers rather than transferring them to preferred ball types. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, regional variants begin appearing, specialized designs that emerge from local traditions and environmental needs. The Hisuian variations seen in Pokemon Legends Arceus demonstrate how ancient technology differed from modern standardization, with heavier materials and mechanical differences that affected throw physics and capture timing. Feather balls, Wing balls and jet balls from the Hisui region represent evolutionary stages in ball development, each lighter and more aerodynamic than its predecessor. These designs prioritized distance and accuracy in an era before trainers could consistently approach Pokémon without being attacked. The ability to throw capture devices safely from range was revolutionary, allowing humans to attempt catches without risking direct confrontation. Gigaton balls and leaden balls took the opposite approach, sacrificing throw distance for increased weight that improved catch rates against larger, heavier Pokémon. These specialized designs show how Hisuian craftsmen understood trade-offs in ball mechanics long before modern researchers formalized the science behind capture technology. The ore-based balls, strange balls, and origin balls demonstrate experimental approaches to containment field generation. Rather than relying purely on apricorn properties, Hisuian artisans incorporated mined materials like tumblestones and rare minerals, creating hybrid designs that blended organic and inorganic components. Origin balls stand out as particularly mysterious, tied to the legendary Pokémon Dialga and Palkia in ways that historical records don't fully explain. These red and white spheres with ornate golden fixtures seem to command authority over even the most powerful creatures, suggesting ancient civilizations understood aspects of Pokémon containment that modern science has yet to fully recover. Net balls emerged from research into bug and water-type capture patterns. Scientists noticed these types exhibited specific resistance patterns that differed from other categories, requiring adjustments to containment field frequencies. The result was a specialized device offering a 3.5 times catch rate multiplier against bug and water Pokémon specifically. The ball's blue and black design with mesh patterns visually communicates its purpose, evoking fishing nets and insect catching equipment. Trainers pursuing collections focused on these types quickly learned to stock net balls exclusively, appreciating the improved efficiency over general-purpose alternatives. Dive balls work best on Pokémon encountered while surfing or underwater, offering a 3.5 times multiplier in aquatic environments. This specialization makes them essential for ocean-going trainers or anyone exploring submerged caves and trenches. The blue coloring and wave patterns clearly mark them as water-focused equipment. The mechanics reflect how environmental pressure and underwater conditions affect Pokémon behavior and capture resistance. A Pokémon encountered on land exhibits different defensive responses than the same species met while diving, and dive balls account for these situational differences in their field calibration. Premier balls exist as a promotional item, given away as bonuses when trainers purchase 10 or more Pokéballs in a single transaction. While mechanically identical to standard Pokéballs with a 1 times catch rate, their pristine white and red coloring with golden accents makes them aesthetically distinctive. Many trainers save Premier Balls for special Pokémon, using them purely for cosmetic reasons. This demonstrates how ball choice has evolved beyond pure mechanics into personal expression. Just as trainers might choose specific outfits or hairstyles to express their identity, they select particular ball types to showcase their Pokémon in containers that reflect their tastes and values. The sheer variety of Pokéball types, now numbering well over 30 distinct designs, emerged from a combination of scientific advancement, regional traditions, and market demands. Each new variant addresses specific pain points that trainers identified through collective experience. The evolution of capture technology mirrors the evolution of Pokémon themselves, adapting and specializing to fill every conceivable niche. Modern trainers benefit from this diversification in ways their predecessors couldn't imagine. A well-stocked bag contains tools for virtually any scenario, from quick balls for fleeing legends to heal balls for marathon catching sessions in dense routes. The strategic depth this creates transforms capture from a simple pass-fail check into a complex minigame with dozens of valid approaches. Competitive players exploit these mechanics ruthlessly, calculating optimal ball choices for specific encounters down to the percentage point. Casual players enjoy the aesthetic variety, matching ball designs to Pokemon color schemes or personal preferences. Collectors obsess over obtaining every ball type, even ones with minimal practical use, simply to complete their inventories. The manufacturing process behind modern Pokéballs remains partially proprietary, with companies like Sylph Company and Devon Corporation guarding certain technological secrets. However, general principles are well understood. Most balls begin with a metal frame that houses the electronic components and energy matrix generators. Plastic shells provide structure and protection while keeping weight manageable. The button mechanism on each ball's front connects to a compression system that activates the capture sequence. When pressed, it generates a beam of red energy that converts the target Pokemon into data, storing it within the ball's internal pocket dimension. This process happens nearly instantaneously, fast enough that even the quickest Pokemon struggle to evade once the beam makes contact. Inside the ball, conditions are carefully controlled to match each Pokemon's preferences as closely as possible. Temperature regulators maintain optimal ranges for ice types, fire types, and then everything between. Humidity controls ensure water types don't dry out, while ground types don't become waterlogged. Even lighting adjusts, providing bright environments for Pokemon that prefer daylight and dimmed spaces for nocturnal species. This individualized care happens automatically, with the ball's systems detecting the occupant's species and adjusting accordingly. Trainers need not micromanage these settings, though some high-end luxury balls allow manual customization for trainers who want to fine-tune their partner's living conditions. The ethical dimensions of Pokemon capture have been debated since the technology's inception. Critics argue that confining living creatures to pocket-sized containers, regardless of internal conditions, constitutes a form of imprisonment. They point to wild Pokemon's visible reluctance to be caught, the way they shake the ball from inside trying to break free, as evidence that capture often occurs against the Pokemon's will. Defenders counter that properly trained Pokemon develop genuine bonds with their trainers, choosing to remain partners even when given opportunities to leave. They note that Pokéballs can be opened from the inside, allowing Pokemon to exit whenever they wish. The relationship between trainer and Pokemon, they argue, is one of mutual benefit rather than domination. The Pokemon world itself seems to support this latter view, with countless examples of Pokemon voluntarily entering their balls or choosing to stay with trainers who treat them well. Legal systems across regions recognize Pokemon as partners rather than property, with strict regulations around mistreatment and abandonment. Still, the philosophical questions persist. Does a creature truly have agency if its brain chemistry can be altered by the ball housing it? Can we trust that Pokemon genuinely consent to capture, or might they simply be experiencing a form of Stockholm Syndrome enabled by the ball's comfort features? These debates will likely continue as long as the technology exists. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how balls interact with certain Pokemon types and abilities. Ghost types, for instance, have historically shown reduced capture rates with standard balls, leading to the development of specialized approaches. Dusk Ball's effectiveness in dark places aligns perfectly with most ghost types' preferred habitats, creating a natural synergy. Steel type's incredible defensive capabilities require stronger containment fields to prevent escape attempts through sheer durability. This led to Ultra Balls becoming the standard for species like Metagross or Aggron, whose metallic bodies could potentially short-circuit weaker ball types. Abilities like Runaway or Shadow Tag affect capture mechanics in subtle ways. Runaway allows Pokemon to flee more easily, making fast balls or quick balls nearly mandatory for consistent success. Shadow Tag prevents fleeing entirely, giving trainers unlimited turns to whittle down the target and increasing Timer Ball's potential dramatically. Some held items influence capture rates directly. Pokemon holding certain berries become more difficult to catch, while those holding items that reduce their effectiveness in battle paradoxically become easier targets. These interactions create additional layers of strategic consideration for dedicated hunters. The phenomenon of critical captures adds yet another variable to the equation. Occasionally, a thrown Pokéball will seal with only a single shake, rather than the usual 3, indicating a critical capture that nearly guarantees success. The exact mechanics remain somewhat mysterious, with catch rate and Pokédex completion percentage apparently influencing critical capture frequency. When a critical capture occurs, the ball jumps higher before landing, then shakes just once before clicking shut. This visual and mechanical difference signals to the trainer that something special just happened, a moment of pure luck that bypasses the usual suspenseful shake sequence. Experienced trainers recognize critical captures instantly and breathe sighs of relief, knowing their target is almost certainly secured. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, certain ball types stand out for their historical significance beyond mere mechanics. The GS ball, featured prominently in early Johto-era events, remains shrouded in mystery even decades later. This golden sphere, with ornate markings, was supposedly connected to Celebi, the time-traveling Pokemon, though its exact purpose and functionality were never fully explained in official canon. The GS ball appeared in anime storylines, where Ash delivered it to Kurt, the apricorn craftsman, but its ultimate fate remained ambiguous. Was it a prototype for capturing mythical Pokemon? A key to accessing temporal distortions? A failed experiment in advanced capture technology? Theories abound, but concrete answers remain elusive. This air of mystery contributes to the GS Ball's legendary status among Pokemon enthusiasts. It represents an era when the franchise was still establishing its mythology, dropping cryptic hints that weren't always paid off with clear explanations. In some ways, the GS Ball's ambiguity enhances its appeal, allowing fans to project their own theories and imaginations onto its golden surface. Strange balls from Pokemon Legends. Arceus demonstrate another experimental approach, utilizing unusual materials that don't fit standard apricorn or industrial manufacturing methods. These balls occasionally fail catastrophically, breaking on impact or releasing Pokemon prematurely. However, when they work, they offer effectiveness that rivals more refined modern designs. The existence of strange balls suggests that Hisuian artisans were willing to experiment with volatile materials and untested combinations, accepting higher failure rates in exchange for potential breakthroughs. This trial and error approach eventually led to the stable designs that became an industry standards, but it required generations of craftsmen to refine the process. Modern safety regulations would never permit strange balls' unpredictable behavior, but understanding their developmental history helps appreciate how far capture technology has advanced. Today's trainers take reliability for granted, forgetting that every successful throw represents centuries of accumulated knowledge and engineering refinement. The Dream Radar application introduced mechanically unique balls that existed only in digital space, used to capture legendary Pokemon within augmented reality environments. These specialized containers bridged the gap between physical Pokéballs and purely digital constructs, hinting at future directions for capture technology. As augmented reality technology improves, future Pokéball variants might exist primarily as software rather than hardware. Trainers could potentially throw digital balls at real-world locations, capturing Pokémon that appear through phone screens or AR glasses. The distinction between physical and virtual would blur, though the fundamental principle of converting Pokémon to data for storage would remain constant. This technological convergence raises new questions about what constitutes a real Pokéball. If a digital representation functions identically to a physical device, does the material component matter? Can trainers form the same emotional attachments to virtual balls as they do to tangible objects they can hold and examine? These questions will become increasingly relevant as technology advances. Regional variants of standard ball types have appeared throughout Pokémon history, with different areas developing their own manufacturing techniques and aesthetic preferences. Galarian Pokéballs feature slightly different button mechanisms compared to Cantonian designs. Alolan balls incorporate local materials that affect weight and texture. These variations are functionally minor, but culturally significant. Trainers who travel extensively often collect balls from different regions as souvenirs, displaying them even if they never use them for actual captures. The subtle design differences, different manufacturer logos, and regional quality variations create a collector's market where rare ball types command premium prices. Some regions maintain traditional crafting methods alongside industrial production, offering handmade balls that appeal to nostalgia or cultural preservation rather than pure performance. These artisanal balls often cost significantly more than mass-produced equivalents, but buyers value the craftsmanship and historical connection they represent. The standardization efforts by international Pokémon leagues have tried to unify ball mechanics across regions, ensuring that a Pokéball purchased in Kanto works identically to one from Galar or Paldea. However, complete uniformity remains elusive due to regional manufacturing variations and cultural preferences that resist homogenization. Apricorn balls experienced a revival in recent generations as trainers rediscovered appreciation for traditional methods. Young trainers visiting Kurt in Azalea Town or similar craftsmen in other regions report finding the process meditative and meaningful. Waiting a full day for Kurt to finish crafting a custom ball creates anticipation that instant purchases from Pokémarts can't replicate. This renewed interest has sparked small-scale apricorn farming operations in Johto and other suitable climates. Entrepreneurs cultivate apricorn trees, harvest the fruit at peak ripeness, and sell them to craftsmen or directly to trainers interested in traditional ball types. The market remains niche but stable, supported by collectors and traditionalists. Modern hybrid approaches combine apricorn shells with electronic components, creating balls that honor traditional aesthetics while incorporating contemporary technology. These fusion designs appeal to trainers who want the best of both worlds, classic styling with reliable modern performance. The psychological impact of ball selection on both trainers and Pokémon has been studied extensively by researchers. Some studies suggest Pokémon caught in luxury balls or friend balls develop stronger bonds with trainers, though whether this results from the ball's mechanical effects or trainer psychology remains debated. Trainers report feeling more invested in Pokémon caught with rare or difficult to obtain balls. A legendary caught in a standard Pokéball feels more impressive than one caught in a Master Ball, despite the latter's guaranteed success. The challenge and risk involved in the capture process apparently enhances the trainer's sense of accomplishment and connection to their partner. This phenomenon has led to self-imposed challenges within the community, trainers attempting to catch powerful Pokémon in deliberately suboptimal ball types. Completing a living Pokédex using only premier balls or catching every legendary and standard Pokéballs creates bragging rights that transcend simple completion metrics. The aesthetic matching between ball type and Pokémon has become a major consideration for dedicated collectors. A shiny Gengar in a dusk ball creates a visual harmony between the ball's dark colors and the Pokémon's shadowy palette. A melodic in a dive ball emphasizes the Pokémon's aquatic nature. These combinations feel correct in ways that transcend pure mechanics. Online communities maintain extensive guides documenting ideal ball matches for every Pokémon, considering color schemes, thematic connections, and rarity levels. Trainers spend hundreds of hours hunting specific Pokémon in specific balls, far beyond what's necessary for functional gameplay. The pursuit becomes an art form, creating perfect aesthetic collections that please the eye as much as they demonstrate capture prowess. This attention to presentation reflects deeper truths about human nature and how we interact with collections. Whether we're arranging books by color on shelves or matching Pokéball types to creature designs, we seek harmony and intentionality in our curated spaces. Pokémon's appeal lies partly in how it accommodates these impulses, providing systems complex enough to reward obsessive optimization. The manufacturing corporations behind Pokéball production have their own fascinating histories. Sylph Company dominated the Cantonian market for decades, their iconic red-roofed headquarters in Saffron City symbolizing their industry leadership. Their patents on basic Pokéball designs granted them effective monopoly status until those patents expired, allowing competitors to enter the market. Devon Corporation in Hoenn challenged Sylph's dominance through aggressive research and development, creating many specialized ball types that Sylph had overlooked. Their focus on niche applications rather than general-purpose designs allowed them to capture market segments that Sylph considered too small to pursue. The resulting competition benefited trainers enormously, driving prices down while expanding available options. Modern trainers enjoy access to dozens of ball types at reasonable prices, specifically because multiple corporations compete for their business. Regional variations in manufacturing costs and distribution networks create price variations that savvy trainers learn to exploit. Some regions maintain state-owned ball production facilities, viewing capture technology as too important to leave entirely to private corporations. These government operations typically focus on producing affordable standard balls for beginning trainers, ensuring that economic barriers don't prevent anyone from starting their Pokémon journey. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the environmental impact of Pokéball manufacturing deserves consideration. Producing millions of balls annually requires significant material extraction, energy consumption, and waste management. Plastic components particularly pose challenges, as discarded balls can persist in environments for decades if not properly recycled. Recent initiatives have pushed toward more sustainable production methods. Biodegradable plastics derived from plant materials could replace petroleum-based polymers. Recycling programs allow trainers to return damaged or unwanted balls for material recovery. Some manufacturers have even experimented with balls grown from modified apricorn trees, blending traditional methods with modern agricultural science. The verdant ball concept, though still theoretical, represents the potential future of eco-conscious capture technology. Imagine a ball that grows from a seed in weeks rather than being manufactured in factories. After use, it could be planted to grow new apricorn trees, creating a closed-loop system that actually benefits environments rather than depleting them. Paldea's terrastall phenomenon has prompted research into entirely new ball types designed to interact with crystallization mechanics. Early prototypes suggest that balls infused with Terra energy might boost capture rates against Terra-stylized Pokemon or even preserve a Pokemon's Terra type when caught. These developments remain experimental, but hint at how regional phenomena continue driving ball innovation. The existence of paradox Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet timeline distortions has created unique capture challenges that standard balls weren't designed to handle. These ancient or futuristic variants exhibit unusual energy signatures that can interfere with conventional containment fields. Researchers are developing temporal stabilization balls that account for these chronal inconsistencies. Future ball types might incorporate AI-assisted targeting systems that analyze a Pokemon's status in real time, automatically adjusting throw arc and spin to maximize connection probability. Haptic feedback could guide trainers toward an optimal throw timing. Augmented reality overlays might display predicted capture rates before committing to a throw. Smart balls could learn from failed attempts, adjusting their approach for subsequent throws. Throw a ball that bounces off a Pokemon's head, and the next attempt might adjust trajectory automatically. Miss a fast-moving target, and the ball's internal gyroscopes compensate for the Pokemon's movement patterns. This adaptive technology would make captures more consistent while preserving the fundamental challenge. Biometric integration could allow balls to attune to individual trainers, calibrating themselves to that trainer's throw style and preferences. A trainer who consistently throws too hard would receive automatic damping. One who struggles with distance calculation would get trajectory assistance. The ball becomes a personalized tool rather than a one-size-fits-all device. Energy harvesting technology might allow balls to recharge themselves between uses, drawing power from ambient sources like sunlight, heat, or even the trainer's movement. This would eliminate concerns about balls running out of power mid-journey, ensuring they remain functional regardless of how long they're carried. Modular balls could allow trainers to customize individual units by swapping components. Want a ball that combines quick ball first turn bonuses with luxury ball friendship gains? Replace the standard internal module with a hybrid variant. This customization would create thousands of possible combinations, letting trainers optimize for their specific playstyles and objectives. The social dynamics around ball selection have evolved into complex status signaling within trainer communities. Catching legendaries in regular Pokéballs demonstrates skill and patience. Using matching ball types for entire teams shows aesthetic commitment. Completing challenges with artificially restricted ball selections proves dedication. These self-imposed constraints create metagames within the larger Pokemon experience, challenges that exist purely because the community values them rather than because the games explicitly reward them. This emergent complexity demonstrates the depth that simple mechanical systems can generate when players engage creatively. Ball trading markets exist in some regions, with trainers exchanging rare ball types they've accumulated for varieties they need. Apricorn balls, being handcrafted and time-consuming to produce, command higher trade values than mass-produced variants. Event-exclusive balls like sport balls become valuable commodities that trainers hoard or exchange for significant compensation. Online databases track ball legality for competitive play, ensuring that certain ball Pokemon combinations that are technically impossible through legitimate means can be identified and flagged. A Pokemon from a generation before certain balls were introduced cannot legally be housed in those ball types, creating forensic trails that help maintain competitive integrity. The technical implementation of Pokéball mechanics in the games themselves has evolved considerably across generations. Early games used simple probability checks, comparing the ball's catch rate multiplier against the Pokemon's base catch rate and current HP percentage. Modern games incorporate additional variables like status, conditions, ball shake calculations, and critical capture chances. The famous Pokéball shake animation, where the ball rocks back and forth up to 3 times before either sealing or breaking open, creates suspense through calculated randomness. Each shake represents a separate probability check, and successful progression through all 3 shakes indicates capture. This multi-stage system generates tension that a single pass-fail check couldn't match. Data miners have reverse-engineered the exact formulas used for capture calculations, revealing hidden complexities that casual players never see. The math involves modified catch rates, HP thresholds, status multipliers, and random number generation across multiple checks. Understanding these formulas helps optimize capture strategies, but isn't necessary for enjoying the fundamental experience. Some balls' effectiveness has been rebalanced across generations as developers identified imbalanced mechanics or unintended exploits. Timer balls originally maxed out at a lower multiplier, for example, while certain apricorn balls had their effectiveness adjusted to better match their intended niches. These balance patches occur quietly between generations, often going unnoticed by casual players. The animation and sound design associated with each ball type contributes significantly to their distinct identities. Ultra balls burst with different particle effects than standard Pokéballs. Master balls release their targets in brilliant light displays that emphasize their legendary status. Luxury balls produce elegant sparkles that match their premium positioning. These presentational differences matter more than many players realize. The satisfaction of a capture comes partly from visual and audio feedback that confirms success. A Master Ball's dramatic reveal feels appropriately climactic for catching a legendary. A Quick Ball's sharp, efficient animation matches its first turn bonus concept. Sound designers have crafted unique audio cues for many ball types, creating associations between specific tones and successful captures. The satisfying click of a ball sealing shut might vary subtly between types, with luxury balls producing a slightly more resonant tone, while quick balls click with sharper immediacy. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, certain legendary captures stand out in community memory. Trainers share stories of catching Mewtwo in a standard Pokéball after dozens of failed attempts, or successfully landing a quick ball on a roaming legendary on the first turn. These accomplishments become personal legends, stories retold in online forums and friend groups. The psychological trauma of failed Master Ball throws also persists in community consciousness. Trainers who accidentally threw their single Master Ball at a common Pokemon or missed entirely due to misclicks carry those mistakes as cautionary tales. The unforgiving nature of single-use items creates stakes that permanent equipment cannot match. Speedrunners have developed sophisticated ball strategies that optimize capture efficiency for time trials. Quick balls become mandatory equipment, with runs sometimes resetting entirely if early quick ball attempts fail. Understanding optimal ball selection for each required capture can shave minutes off completion times, turning what seems like minor equipment choices into crucial routing decisions. Nuzlocke challengers impose additional restrictions on ball usage, sometimes allowing only standard Pokeballs or requiring balls be purchased rather than found. These artificial constraints increase difficulty while encouraging creative problem solving. A Nuzlocke run where every capture must occur in a matching ball type creates an immense challenge and satisfaction. The role of Pokeballs in the franchise's broader narrative themes deserves recognition. Balls represent humanity's attempt to coexist with creatures that could easily overpower or ignore us. They're tools of partnership rather than domination, requiring Pokemon's cooperation at some level to function long-term. This positions capture as the beginning of a relationship rather than the end of a hunt. Stories throughout the franchise emphasize trainers who treat their Pokemon as partners, letting them out of their balls regularly and respecting their agency. N's philosophy in Black and White questioned whether capture was ethical at all, forcing players to confront the implications of a system they'd taken for granted. These narrative explorations add depth to what could otherwise be a simple gameplay mechanic. Pokéballs become symbols of complex relationships between species, tools that can enable friendship or facilitate exploitation depending on how they're used. The franchise generally lands on an optimistic view where properly wielded, balls create bonds that benefit both trainer and Pokémon. The physical merchandise market for replica Pokéballs has generated significant revenue for the Pokémon Company and licensees. Collectors purchase detailed replicas for display, while functional toys that open and close provide tactile satisfaction. Some replicas include electronic features like lights and sounds, recreating the capture experience in physical form. These products demonstrate Pokéball's iconic status within popular culture. Even people who've never played Pokemon games often recognize the distinctive red and white sphere. It's become shorthand for the entire franchise, appearing on everything from clothing to home decor to vehicle wraps. Limited edition replica balls tied to specific game releases or events become collector's items that appreciate in value. A replica Master Ball from a 20th anniversary celebration might sell for multiples of its original retail price years later. This collector market parallels the in-game pursuit of rare ball types, extending the hobby into physical space. The educational potential of Pokéball diversity often goes underappreciated. Learning to optimize ball selection teaches probability theory, resource management, and situational analysis. Young players develop strategic thinking skills through trial and error with different ball types. These lessons transfer to real-world problem solving even if players don't consciously recognize the connection. Parents and educators have noted that Pokémon systems encourage reading and math skills in contexts that feel like play rather than study. Calculating catch rate percentages, managing inventory economics, and reading item descriptions all build foundational competencies. Pokéballs contribute to this educational value through their mechanical complexity and strategic depth. The franchise's longevity partly stems from this multi-generational appeal, where simple surface mechanics conceal sophisticated systems that reward deeper engagement. Children can enjoy catching Pokémon with whatever balls they have available. Adults can optimize ball choices based on comprehensive mechanical understanding. Both experiences remain valid and enjoyable. As we drift toward the end of this exploration, it's worth reflecting on how Pokéball evolution mirrors technological progress in our own world. From handcrafted tools to mass production to specialized variants to potential smart devices, balls follow a development arc familiar to countless human technologies. This parallel creates subtle resonance that makes the Pokémon world feel lived in and believable despite its fantastical elements. We understand instinctively how apricorn balls might transition to factory production because we've seen similar transitions in our own history. The logical progression from general-purpose designs to specialized variants matches patterns across human innovation. Future generations will likely introduce balls we can't currently imagine, responding to new Pokémon types, regional variants, or gameplay mechanics that don't yet exist. The pattern of continuous specialization and diversification shows no signs of stopping. As long as new Pokemon appear, new balls will emerge to catch them. The community's relationship with Pokeballs will continue evolving as well. New capture challenges, self-imposed restrictions, and aesthetic preferences will emerge. The fundamental satisfaction of seeing that ball seal shut after a difficult encounter will persist, connecting future trainers to decades of predecessors who felt the same thrill. In the end, Pokeballs represent something beautifully simple, a tool for turning wild creatures into partners, and something profoundly complex, a technological ecosystem spanning centuries of innovation. They're both mundane equipment carried casually in bags and symbols of the bond between humans and Pokemon. Every ball sitting in a trainer's inventory carries this dual nature, simultaneously ordinary and extraordinary. A standard Pokéball might be worth only 200 Pokédollars, but the Pikachu inside could be someone's best friend. An Ultra Ball costs more, but guarantees nothing without skill and patience. Even a Master Ball's guaranteed capture means little without the judgment to use it wisely. Perhaps that's the ultimate lesson Pokeballs teach. No tool, however advanced, replaces the human element of decision-making and care. The balls provide possibility, but trainers create the relationships that give those possibilities meaning. In a world of constant technological advancement, that human connection remains the irreplaceable constant. The deeper mechanics of how balls actually function at a molecular level remain fascinating areas of ongoing research. When a ball makes contact with a Pokemon, it doesn't simply create a container around the creature. Instead, it initiates a complex conversion process that transforms biological matter into stable energy patterns that can be stored indefinitely without degradation. This conversion happens through quantum entanglement between the ball's internal matrix and the Pokemon's cellular structure. Each atom in the Pokemon's body gets mapped to a corresponding position in the energy field, creating a perfect template that can be reversed when the Pokemon is released. The process completes in microseconds, far too fast for the Pokemon or trainer to consciously perceive. The energy state inside the ball isn't static, but dynamic, maintaining the Pokemon's biological processes at a slowed temporal rate. From the Pokemon's perspective, time inside the ball passes normally, but external observers might measure days, while the Pokemon experiences only hours. This temporal compression allows Pokemon to remain healthy during extended storage without requiring food or exercise. Temperature regulation systems within each ball monitor the stored Pokemon's preferred environmental conditions continuously. If a fire type's energy signature indicates distress from insufficient heat, the ball's internal temperature rises automatically. Water types receive increased humidity. Grass types get exposure to simulated sunlight through specialized UV emitters embedded in the ball's lining. These environmental controls draw power from the same energy matrix that maintains the Pokemon's converted state, creating a self-sustaining system that requires no external power source. The ball essentially becomes a micro-ecosystem perfectly calibrated to its occupants' needs, adjusting in real time as those needs change. The psychological comfort features built into modern balls deserve special attention. Pokemon don't simply float in empty space while stored. They experience simulated environments that match their natural habitats. A Butterfree might perceive itself resting in a flower field, while a Geodude experiences the sensation of being buried in warm soil. These simulations aren't perfect illusions, but simplified representations that trigger the Pokemon's instinctive comfort responses. The ball reads the Pokemon's brain patterns to determine what environmental cues produce relaxation, then generates those cues artificially. Over time, Pokemon can become so accustomed to their balls that being released feels briefly disorienting. The distinction between being inside a ball and being free raises philosophical questions that researchers continue debating. If a Pokemon experiences comfort and contentment while stored, does the physical confinement matter? Can we ethically justify the practice based on the Pokemon's subjective experience, or should we prioritize the objective reality of their situation, regardless of how they feel about it? Different cultures within the Pokemon world answer these questions differently. Some regions emphasize keeping Pokemon outside their balls as much as possible, believing that physical freedom matters more than simulated comfort. Others trust the technology completely, storing Pokemon for extended periods without concern. Most trainers fall somewhere between these extremes, letting their partners out regularly while using balls for convenience and safety. The historical development of comfort features followed a logical progression as technology advanced. Early apricorn balls provided minimal environmental control, essentially functioning as simple containers. Pokemon inside experienced sensory deprivation, which made extended storage stressful. This limitation encouraged ancient trainers to minimize ball usage, contributing to the companion-based training styles common in that era. The introduction of basic temperature regulation in the 1930s marked the first major improvement in Pokemon welfare. Balls could now maintain reasonable comfort for hours rather than minutes, enabling trainers to venture farther from settlements without endangering their partners. This breakthrough accelerated exploration of remote regions and contributed to the documentation of previously unknown Pokemon species. Humidity control followed in the 1950s, solving persistent problems with water and grass types that dried out during extended storage. Simulated sensory environments emerged in the 1970s, revolutionary technology that transformed balls from simple containers into sophisticated habitat simulators. Modern balls incorporate all these features as standard, with luxury variants offering enhanced versions that provide even greater comfort. The difference between a basic Pokéball and a luxury ball isn't just the friendship boost mechanics, it's the quality of the simulated environment and the precision of environmental controls. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the manufacturing tolerances and quality control processes that ensure ball reliability deserve exploration. Each ball undergoes dozens of tests before being approved for sale, checking structural integrity, electronic functionality, and safety features. Substandard units are rejected and recycled, their materials reclaimed for future production. The button mechanism receives particular scrutiny during quality checks. It must activate reliably across thousands of presses while resisting accidental activation from jostling or impacts. The spring tension needs precise calibration. Too loose and the ball might open unexpectedly. Too tight and trainers struggle to release their Pokemon quickly during battles. Seal integrity tests involve pressurizing balls and checking for energy leaks that could allow stored Pokemon to escape prematurely. Even microscopic gaps in the shell's internal coating can compromise containment over time, so sophisticated sensors scan every millimeter of surface area looking for defects invisible to human inspection. Drop tests simulate the rough treatment balls receive during actual use, verifying that impacts from typical throw heights don't damage internal components. Balls must survive repeated drops onto various surfaces from at least 2 meters without failing. Military-grade variants used by rangers and security forces undergo even more rigorous testing, including exposure to extreme temperatures, corrosive environments, and explosive shocks. The recall system, built into modern balls, allows trainers to return Pokemon to their balls from a distance by aiming and pressing the button. This works through the quantum entanglement established during the initial capture, creating a permanent link between ball and Pokémon that persists until the ball is purposefully reset or destroyed. Some trainers worry about their Pokémon being recalled against their will, but research shows that Pokémon can resist recall attempts if they choose. The mechanism requires some level of cooperation from the stored Pokémon, preventing forced recalls in situations where the Pokémon wants to remain active. This built-in consent mechanism helps address ethical concerns about trainer control. The maximum storage capacity of Pokéball pocket dimensions has been tested extensively, though exact limits remain unclear. Most trainers carry 6 Pokémon because league regulations restrict team sizes, not because balls can't hold more. The energy requirements for maintaining multiple Pokémon increase exponentially, but theoretically, a single ball could store dozens of creatures if designed for that purpose. Ancient apricorn balls had much lower capacity, often becoming unstable if they held particularly powerful Pokémon for extended periods. The energy output from legendary tier creatures could overwhelm primitive containment matrices, causing catastrophic failures that release the Pokémon violently. Modern balls incorporate safety valves that vent excess energy safely, preventing such disasters. The development of PC storage systems revolutionized Pokémon management by creating networked repositories where trainers could store unlimited Pokémon digitally. These systems interface directly with Pokéballs, converting their stored energy patterns into data that can be transmitted across telecommunications networks and reconstituted elsewhere. This technology enabled the modern competitive scene where trainers maintain hundreds of Pokémon for breeding, training, and team building. Without PC storage, serious collectors would need warehouses full of physical balls. The digitization of Pokémon storage sparked its own ethical debates about whether data copies constitute the same individuals or separate entities, philosophical questions that remain unresolved. The emergence of form-changing Pokémon, like Rotom or Cast Form, created unique challenges for ball technology. These Pokémon alter their physical structure dramatically based on environmental conditions or items they're holding. Balls needed upgrades to accommodate these transformations without losing structural integrity or comfort calibration. Modern balls include adaptive matrices that recalibrate automatically when their occupant changes form. A Rotom switching from standard form to washing machine form triggers immediate adjustments to the simulated environment, ensuring continuous comfort through the transformation. This happens seamlessly, with the Pokémon barely noticing the ball's internal changes. Mega Evolution presented similar technical challenges when the phenomenon was first documented. The massive energy surge accompanying Mega Evolution threatened to overload standard balls from inside, potentially causing explosive failures. Researchers developed reinforced containment matrices specifically to handle mega-evolved Pokémon safely, though the high cost means many trainers simply avoid recalling mega-evolved partners until they revert. Dynamax and Gigantamax mechanics in Galar forced another round of technological adaptation. Pokémon in their enlarged states cannot be stored in conventional balls at all. Their energy signatures become too chaotic for stable containment. Galar's unique Dynamax bands partially solve this by preventing Dynamax during storage, but the underlying technical limitations remain unresolved. Terrestrialization's impact on ball technology is still being studied. The crystalline coating that forms during terrestrialization appears to interfere with recall beams, making it difficult to return terrestrialized Pokémon to their balls mid-battle. Some researchers suggest this represents an inherent property of Terra energy that actively resists spatial compression, while others believe it's simply a calibration issue that future balls will overcome. The way different ball types present captured Pokémon varies subtly but noticeably to observant trainers. A Pokémon released from a luxury ball emerges surrounded by golden sparkles and particle effects that emphasize premium quality. Quick balls release their contents explosively fast, with sharp blue-white energy that mirrors their speed-focused mechanics. Heal balls surround released Pokémon with soft pink auras and gentle healing energy that visually communicates the restorative properties. Dusk balls produce shadowy wisps and dark purple energy appropriate for their nighttime specialization. These presentation differences serve both practical purposes, helping trainers identify which balls hold which Pokémon, and aesthetic ones, creating visual variety during releases. Some trainers coordinate ball types across their entire team for a unified presentation style, all premier balls for an elegant white theme, or all dusk balls for a mysterious dark aesthetic. Others deliberately mix ball types to create visual variety, ensuring each team member appears distinct when released. These choices reflect personal style rather than gameplay optimization, but they matter deeply to trainers who value presentation. The sound design associated with different ball types creates similar opportunities for customization and expression. Standard Pokéballs produce the classic mechanical clicking and whirring sounds that generations of trainers have internalized. Ultra Balls add bass-heavy emphasis that sounds more powerful and authoritative. Master Balls emit unique crystalline tones that sound expensive and precious. These audio cues combine with visual effects to create holistic sensory experiences that define each ball type's identity. A luxury ball doesn't just look premium, it sounds premium, feels premium in the hand with its balanced weight, and creates premium visual effects during use. This multi-sensory branding helps justify price differences between ball types beyond pure mechanical advantages. The cultural significance of specific ball types varies across regions based on local history and availability. In Johto, apricorn balls carry nostalgic weight tied to Kurt's craftsmanship and traditional methods. In Hoenn, net balls and dive balls see heavy use due to the region's extensive ocean coverage and diverse aquatic ecosystems. Galar's unique historical relationship with Dynamax led to specialized ball variants optimized for managing Dynamax-capable Pokémon, though technical limitations prevented complete solutions. Alola's Ultra Beast Crisis drove Beast Ball development, creating technology so specialized that it functions effectively only against one narrow category of creatures. These regional variations in ball culture create interesting dynamics when trainers travel. A Johto trainer visiting Alola might marvel at Beast Ball's exotic design, while Alolan trainers view apricorn balls as fascinating relics of a bygone era. This cultural exchange enriches the global trainer community, exposing people to approaches and traditions they might never encounter otherwise. The environmental impact studies of Pokéball production and disposal have grown more comprehensive and concerning as awareness of ecological issues has increased. Manufacturing billions of balls annually requires massive amounts of plastic, metal, and rare earth elements. Mining these materials disrupts habitats and generates toxic waste streams that affect both human communities and wild Pokémon populations. Disposal of old or damaged balls creates additional problems. Balls contain small amounts of hazardous materials in their electronic components, particularly the energy matrix generators. Improper disposal can contaminate soil and groundwater with heavy metals and industrial chemicals. Recycling programs help mitigate these impacts, but can't eliminate them entirely. The biodegradable ball research gaining traction in recent years represents a promising direction, but faces significant technical hurdles. Creating shells that decompose safely while maintaining structural integrity during use requires balancing competing priorities. Materials that break down quickly after disposal might fail prematurely during normal use, creating safety hazards. Some experimental designs incorporate living materials, balls grown from genetically modified apricorn trees that produce shells with embedded electronics. These biohybrid designs would be completely renewable and biodegradable, while potentially offering performance comparable to synthetic alternatives. Early prototypes show promise, but remain years away from commercial viability. The carbon footprint of ball transportation adds another environmental consideration. Balls manufactured in Kanto might be shipped to Unova, then to Alola, traveling thousands of miles before reaching end users. This global supply chain creates emissions that contribute to climate change, affecting Pokémon habitats worldwide through temperature shifts and weather pattern disruptions. Local production initiatives aim to reduce transportation impacts by establishing regional manufacturing facilities that serve nearby markets exclusively. These smaller operations might lack the economies of scale that keep prices low, but environmentally conscious trainers increasingly accept higher costs in exchange for reduced ecological impact. The social justice dimensions of Pokéball production deserve attention as well. Mining operations that extract raw materials often operate in economically disadvantaged regions where labor protections are minimal. Workers might face dangerous conditions, inadequate compensation, and limited recourse when injured or exploited. The convenience trainers enjoy comes partly from labor practices that would be unacceptable in more regulated contexts. Consumer advocacy groups have pushed for transparency in ball supply chains, demanding that manufacturers disclose where materials originate and under what conditions they're extracted. Some companies have responded by implementing ethical sourcing standards and third-party audits, though enforcement remains inconsistent and verification difficult. Fair trade certified balls have emerged as a premium product category, guaranteeing that workers throughout the supply chain receive fair wages and safe conditions. These balls cost significantly more than conventional alternatives, limiting their market penetration to affluent consumers willing to pay premium prices for ethical assurance. The monopolistic tendencies of dominant ball manufacturers have drawn regulatory scrutiny in some regions. When one or two companies control most ball production, they can manipulate prices, suppress innovation, and dictate terms to retailers and consumers alike. Antitrust authorities have occasionally intervened to prevent mergers or break up overly concentrated market power. Smaller manufacturers argue that current patent systems favor established corporations with extensive legal resources to defend their intellectual property. Independent innovators struggle to bring new ball designs to market when every feature risks infringing existing patents. Some regions have reformed patent laws to encourage competition and innovation, though globally the system remains tilted toward incumbents. The counterfeit ball market poses serious safety and ethical concerns. Illegal manufacturers produce fake balls that superficially resemble authentic products but lack a proper safety features and quality controls. These counterfeits might fail catastrophically during use, injuring trainers or releasing Pokémon uncontrollably. Distinguishing authentic balls from counterfeits requires knowledge that casual trainers often lack. Sophisticated fakes include holographic authentication markers and serial numbers copied from legitimate products. Only detailed inspection by experts or electronic verification through authorized dealers can reliably identify counterfeits. The human cost of counterfeit balls extends beyond safety issues. Legitimate manufacturers lose revenue to counterfeiters, reducing their ability to invest in research and development. Workers in authentic factories face job losses and reduced wages when counterfeit competition erodes market share. The entire industry suffers when counterfeits undermine trust in ball technology generally. Law enforcement agencies struggle to combat counterfeit ball production because operations often span multiple jurisdictions and move frequently to evade detection. International cooperation helps but remains limited by conflicting legal frameworks and resource constraints. The problem persists despite ongoing enforcement efforts, suggesting systemic issues that require comprehensive reform rather than incremental improvements. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the ways balls interface with other Pokemon-related technologies reveal interesting design considerations. Pokédexes need to communicate with balls to register caught Pokemon and update trainer data. This communication happens wirelessly through short-range protocols that ensure security while enabling convenient data synchronization. Evolution stones interact with balls in complex ways during evolution triggers. A Pokemon holding an evolution stone inside its ball might undergo evolution automatically if conditions are met, or the ball might suppress evolution until the Pokemon is released. Different ball types handle these scenarios differently based on their internal programming and the preferences encoded during initial capture. Held items more generally create management challenges that modern balls address through intelligent inventory systems. The ball tracks what items its occupant carries, ensuring they're not lost or damaged during storage. When the Pokemon is released, the ball reconstitutes the held item along with the Pokemon's physical form, maintaining perfect inventory accuracy. XP share devices that distribute battle experience across an entire team work by networking with all balls carried by the trainer. Each ball transmits data about its occupant's current experience level, and the XP share device calculates appropriate distributions. This requires sophisticated protocols to ensure synchronization and prevent data corruption that could affect Pokemon development. Rotom technology integration has created entirely new possibilities for ball functionality. Some experimental designs incorporate Rotom interfaces that provide trainers with detailed status readouts, environmental monitoring, and even communication channels for interacting with stored Pokemon. These smart balls represent the cutting edge of capture technology, but remain expensive and relatively rare. The way balls interact with terrain features during throws affects capture success more than many trainers realize. Throwing a ball while standing in deep water reduces throw distance and accuracy. Throwing from elevated positions increases both distance and impact velocity. Wind affects trajectories, especially for lighter ball types. These environmental factors create situational complexity that experienced trainers learn to navigate instinctively. Some regions have developed throwing techniques specific to their local geography. Mountainous areas produce trainers skilled at accounting for altitude differentials and thin air that affects ball flight. Coastal regions emphasize compensating for wind and throwing from unstable platforms like boats. These regional specializations reflect how local conditions shape training culture. The emergence of ball-throwing sports and competitions has transformed what was once purely functional skill into athletic performance art. Professional throwers achieve remarkable accuracy and distance, demonstrating techniques that average trainers never master. These competitions include target accuracy challenges, distance throws, and trick shots that showcase the full range of possibilities. Trick ball throwing has become particularly popular, with practitioners developing signature moves that combine athletic skill with theatrical flair. Behind-the-back captures, mid-air releases, and other acrobatic techniques serve no practical purpose but create entertaining spectacles that draw audiences and inspire younger trainers. The standardization of ball sizes, and weights enables these competitive scenes by ensuring all participants use equivalent equipment. Variations in ball dimensions would create unfair advantages that undermine competition integrity. Manufacturing tolerances are tightly controlled to maintain this standardization across billions of units produced globally. Some experimental ball designs have explored non-spherical shapes that might offer functional advantages. Disc-shaped balls could fly farther and more accurately, while elliptical designs might be easier to grip and throw. However, these innovations face cultural resistance from trainers who consider the traditional sphere iconic and irreplaceable. Departing from established form feels like violating something fundamental about Pokemon culture. The way balls scale to accommodate Pokemon of vastly different sizes remains one of the technology's most impressive features. A ball that holds a tiny Caterpie can equally contain a massive Wailord, despite the 1,000-fold size difference. The pocket dimension inside adjusts its volume automatically based on the occupant's needs, expanding or contracting as necessary. This scalability has practical limits, though. Exceptionally large Pokemon, like Eternatus in its Eternamax form, exceed conventional balls' containment capabilities entirely. Special containment devices more resembling architectural structures than handheld balls are required for such creatures, assuming containment is possible at all. The relationship between a Pokemon's physical size and its energy signature doesn't correlate linearly. Some small Pokemon generate enormous energy outputs that stress containment matrices, while massive Pokemon might have relatively calm signatures that enable easy storage. These variations reflect the diverse nature of Pokemon physiology and the complex factors that determine containment difficulty. Shadow Pokemon, corrupted through artificial darkening of their hearts, require specialized purification balls in some regions. These devices incorporate cleansing energies that gradually restore the Pokemon's natural state during storage. The process takes time and multiple cycles of storage and release, but eventually reverses the shadow corruption completely. Regional variants of species create interesting questions about whether balls need calibration for specific forms. Alolan Vulpix experiences ice-type environmental needs completely different from Cantonian Vulpix's fire-type preferences. Modern balls adjust automatically for these differences, but early cross-regional travels sometimes resulted in discomfort for Pokemon whose balls weren't calibrated for their variant's needs. The way balls handle injured or unconscious Pokemon demonstrates sophisticated medical technology integration. Fainted Pokemon receive stabilizing energy that prevents their condition from deteriorating during storage. While balls don't actively heal damage, they prevent further harm and maintain the Pokemon in a stable state until proper treatment becomes available. Some luxury ball variants incorporate basic healing functions that accelerate recovery for injured Pokemon during storage. These medical-grade balls cost significantly more than standard versions, but offer value for trainers who frequently battle in areas far from Pokemon centers. The healing occurs slowly, over hours or days, but requires no external intervention or supplies. The regulatory frameworks governing ball manufacturing and sale vary dramatically across regions, reflecting different philosophical approaches to balancing safety, innovation, and accessibility. Some regions enforce strict licensing requirements that limit who can produce and sell balls. Others maintain minimal regulation that encourages competition but creates safety risks. Consumer protection laws in most regions require balls to meet minimum performance and safety standards before being approved for sale. These standards specify catch rate accuracy tolerances, durability requirements, and safety feature implementations. Balls that fail to meet these standards face recalls and manufacturers face penalties. The black market for illegal ball types thrives in regions with restrictive regulations. Master balls, officially limited to elite trainers and research institutions, command enormous prices on underground markets where desperate trainers seek guaranteed captures. Counterfeit master balls that don't actually work as advertised scam countless buyers who lack expertise to verify authenticity before purchase. Certain ball types have been banned entirely in some regions due to ethical concerns or technical risks. A few jurisdictions prohibit master balls completely, considering their guaranteed capture mechanism a violation of Pokemon autonomy rights. Others ban experimental ball types deemed insufficiently tested for public safety. The future trajectory of ball technology likely includes increased integration with augmented reality systems and artificial intelligence. Trainers might eventually wear AR glasses that overlay capture probability data in real time, showing exactly which ball type offers the best success chance for any given encounter. This data-driven approach could demystify capture mechanics while reducing the trial and error learning curve. AI-powered balls might analyze wild Pokemon behavior patterns in real time, predicting movement and adjusting capture strategy automatically. Machine learning algorithms trained on millions of successful captures could identify subtle patterns that human trainers miss, optimizing approach and timing for maximum success probability. Biometric authentication could prevent stolen balls from being used by unauthorized trainers. A ball locked to its owner's fingerprint or retinal pattern would be worthless to thieves, reducing ball theft and improving security. This technology exists already, but remains too expensive for mass market implementation. Blockchain-based authentication systems might create permanent, tamper-proof records of ball ownership and provenance. Each ball would have a digital identity recorded across distributed ledgers, making counterfeiting impossible and establishing clear chains of custody. This transparency could help combat illegal ball trafficking and verify ball authenticity effortlessly. The philosophical implications of increasingly sophisticated ball technology deserve ongoing examination as capabilities expand. Each enhancement that makes balls more effective, comfortable, or intelligent raises new questions about autonomy, consent, and the nature of the trainer-Pokemon relationship. We must remain vigilant that technological progress serves genuine welfare rather than simply increasing human control. As we drift toward the end of this exploration, reflecting on how far ball technology has progressed since those first carved apricorns creates perspective on the broader journey. From uncertain handcraft to reliable mass production, to diverse specialization, to potential smart devices, each stage built upon previous foundations while reaching toward new possibilities. The constant throughout this evolution has been the drive to improve how humans and Pokemon coexist. Balls represent our best attempt to create tools that enable partnership while respecting Pokemon autonomy as much as technology allows. They're imperfect solutions to complex problems, but they've enabled relationships and adventures that wouldn't exist otherwise. Future generations will look back on current ball technology the way we view apricorn craftsmanship, admiring the ingenuity while recognizing the limitations. They'll use devices we can barely imagine, with capabilities that seem magical from our current perspective. But they'll still be addressing the same fundamental challenge, building bridges between species through thoughtful tool design. The personal connections trainers form with their specific balls shouldn't be dismissed as sentimentality. That Ultra Ball that finally caught a shiny legendary after hundreds of attempts becomes treasured not for its mechanical properties, but for the memories attached. The premier ball holding a starter Pokemon carries emotional weight exceeding any market value. These objects serve as physical anchors for experiences and relationships that define trainers' journeys. Looking at your ball collection means reliving captures, remembering the circumstances of each encounter, feeling again the excitement and satisfaction of successful throws. They're repositories of personal history as much as Pokémon containers. The future of balls, whatever form it takes, must preserve this capacity for emotional resonance while advancing technical capabilities. No amount of AI assistance or augmented reality overlay should eliminate the fundamental thrill of a successful capture or the pride in a well-stocked bag. Technology should enhance, rather than replace, the human experiences that make Pokémon training meaningful. In quiet moments, examining a Pokéball thoughtfully reveals its true nature. It's a promise between species, a bridge across the gap between human and Pokémon. Its history compressed into palm-sized form, carrying forward techniques and wisdom accumulated across generations. Its possibility contained in smooth curves, waiting to burst open and reveal what partnership might become. That basic red and white sphere in your pocket connects you to traditions stretching back millennia while pointing toward futures we're only beginning to glimpse. It represents humanity's best qualities, our ingenuity, our desire for companionship, our capacity to create tools that enable rather than dominate. And it fits perfectly in your hand, waiting for the next throw that might change everything. The seasonal variations in ball effectiveness represent another subtle layer that dedicated trainers learn to recognize. Spring encounters when Pokémon emerge from winter dormancy create different capture dynamics than autumn hunts when creatures prepare for colder months. Summer's heat affects certain ball types' mechanical components, while winter's cold can slow electronic response times fractionally. These seasonal considerations rarely matter for casual encounters, but competitive hunters pursuing perfect specimens across months or years develop intuition about timing. They know which seasons favor which ball types for which species, optimizing their strategies around natural cycles that govern Pokémon behavior and availability. Lunar cycles influence capture success in ways that blend superstition with documented patterns. Some trainers swear that full moons increase wild Pokémon aggression, making captures more difficult regardless of ball type used. Others claim new moons create unusual calmness that improves success rates. Scientific studies show marginal correlations that might reflect coincidence rather than causation, but experienced trainers trust their observations over statistical analysis. The way different weather conditions affect ball performance creates additional strategic considerations. Rain can make balls slippery and difficult to grip securely, though waterproof coatings on premium balls minimize this issue. Fog reduces visibility, making aimed throws more challenging even with properly functioning equipment. Intense sunlight can heat ball surfaces uncomfortably, requiring gloves or cloth wrapping to handle them safely. Sandstorms pose particular challenges by abrading ball surfaces and infiltrating internal mechanisms through microscopic gaps. Trainers venturing into desert regions often wrap their balls in protective fabric or store them in sealed containers, accepting reduced quick-access convenience for improved longevity and reliability. The altitude considerations for ball performance often surprise trainers when they first venture into mountainous regions. Thin air at high elevations affects throw trajectories noticeably, requiring compensation through adjusted angles and force. Electronic components can behave unpredictably in extreme cold climate at altitude, though quality balls include environmental hardening that prevents most failures. Underwater ball usage represents an entirely different challenge that specialized balls like dive balls specifically address. Throwing submerged requires accounting for water resistance and buoyancy, that dramatically alter ball flight characteristics. The water also dampens the energy beam used for capture, requiring stronger field generation to achieve similar effectiveness as surface throws. Some experimental ball designs incorporate propulsion systems that enable underwater maneuverability impossible with traditional throw mechanics. These self-guided balls could pursue fleeing Pokémon through complex underwater environments, maintaining pursuit until successfully making contact. However, the technology remains expensive and unreliable, prone to malfunction in unpredictable aquatic conditions. The way balls interact with electrical interference from certain Pokémon types creates occasional capture complications. Electric types can generate fields that disrupt ball electronics, particularly in moments of stress when they're desperately trying to escape capture. Shielding improvements in modern designs have reduced these incidents, but they haven't been eliminated entirely. Psychic types present different challenges through their mental energies that can confuse ball targeting systems or even influence trainers to throw inaccurately. Experienced hunters develop mental discipline techniques to resist these influences, though subtle psychic pressure affects even veteran trainers during high-stakes legendary encounters. Ghost type's ability to phase through solid matter creates obvious containment difficulties that early balls couldn't address adequately. Modern balls generate containment fields that exist across multiple dimensional phases simultaneously, trapping ghost types even when they attempt to slip between reality's cracks. This multi-phase technology represents one of the most sophisticated aspects of current ball design. The storage duration limits for different ball types vary based on their internal power reserves and efficiency. Basic Pokéballs might maintain full functionality for weeks between Pokémon releases before requiring recharge through exposure to specialized equipment. Premium balls often last months or even years, their enhanced power systems supporting extended deployments. Long-term storage in PC systems bypasses these duration concerns entirely by maintaining Pokémon in pure data form rather than energy containment. However, some trainers report that Pokémon stored for extremely long periods in PC systems seem slightly disoriented upon first release, suggesting that the experience differs meaningfully from ball storage despite superficial similarities. The backup power systems built into quality balls ensure that even if primary systems fail, containment remains stable long enough for trainers to transfer their Pokémon to functional balls or PC storage. These redundancies prevent catastrophic releases that could endanger both trainer and Pokémon, though they add costs that budget balls often omit. Regional manufacturing differences affect ball reliability and performance in ways that transcend simple quality metrics. Cantonian balls emphasize durability and consistent performance across varied conditions. Johtonian craftsmanship prioritizes aesthetic elegance and traditional methods. Hoenese designs focus on specialized performance optimization for specific scenarios. These regional philosophies create product lines with distinct characters that appeal to different trainer preferences. A trainer valuing absolute reliability might prefer Cantonian manufacture, regardless of aesthetic considerations. Someone drawn to traditional methods and artisanal quality might seek Johtonian balls despite higher prices. Competitive specialists might select Hoenese balls for their optimized performance in specific contexts. The used ball market enables cost-conscious trainers to acquire quality equipment below retail prices, though this requires accepting potential wear and unknown histories. Reputable dealers refurbish used balls to factory specifications, replacing worn components and testing thoroughly before resale. Less scrupulous sellers might pass off damaged or counterfeit balls as authentic used products. Ball rental services have emerged in regions with active tourist industries, allowing visiting trainers to access specialized equipment for temporary use without purchasing it outright. A tourist hoping to catch water Pokémon during a beach vacation might rent dive balls for the week rather than buying them for one-time use. These services provide convenience while generating revenue for local businesses. Some conservation organizations provide balls to trained volunteers for catch and release research programs. Volunteers catch wild Pokémon temporarily for health assessments, population surveys, or relocation efforts, then release them after collecting necessary data. Using standardized ball types ensures consistency across research teams and regions. The way the different cultures within the Pokémon world perceive ball technology reflects broader values and relationships with Pokémon. Some societies view balls as sacred tools, enabling honored partnerships, treating them with reverence and maintaining elaborate rituals around their use. Others see them as simple utility items, no different from ropes or nets, practical equipment deserving no special significance. These cultural variations influence everything from ball decoration to storage practices to beliefs about proper ball-to-Pokémon matching. In some regions, using the wrong ball type for particular Pokémon species is considered disrespectful or unlucky. In others, such concerns are dismissed as superstition with no factual basis. The education systems training new trainers emphasize ball knowledge to varying degrees depending on regional priorities. Some regions require extensive ball mechanics coursework before granting trainer licenses, ensuring every licensed trainer understands optimal ball selection and usage. Others provide minimal instruction, allowing trainers to learn through experience and community knowledge sharing. Ball maintenance represents an often overlooked aspect of equipment management that affects long-term performance. Regular cleaning prevents dirt accumulation that can interfere with button mechanisms or seal integrity. Periodic recalibration ensures electronic components maintain optimal accuracy. Protective storage prevents environmental damage during travel or periods of inactivity. Professional trainers often maintain detailed maintenance logs, tracking each ball's usage history, repair records, and performance metrics. This documentation helps identify patterns that might indicate developing problems before they cause failures. It also provides valuable data for warranty claims or insurance purposes if balls are damaged or lost. The insurance industry surrounding valuable balls and the Pokémon they contain has grown substantially as competitive training has become more lucrative. Trainers with rare Pokémon worth significant sums often insure both the creatures and their containment balls against loss, theft, or damage. Premium policies might cover replacement costs, liability for escaped Pokémon, and even tournament winnings lost due to equipment failure. The legal frameworks determining ball ownership and associated Pokémon rights vary across jurisdictions in complex ways. In most regions, the ball physically represents ownership. Whoever possesses the ball has rights to its contents unless proven otherwise. This creates obvious theft concerns and has spawned elaborate security systems and tracking technologies. Some jurisdictions require ball registration systems that maintain databases linking balls to their legal owners. Stolen balls can be flagged in these systems, making them difficult to sell or use without detection. However, these registries raise privacy concerns about government surveillance of citizen Pokémon ownership and movement. The black market trading in rare Pokémon often involves sophisticated ball counterfeiting that creates plausible ownership papers for stolen creatures. Distinguishing legitimately caught Pokémon from laundered stolen ones requires forensic analysis beyond most trainers' capabilities. Law enforcement agencies maintain specialized units investigating Pokemon trafficking, but limited resources mean most cases go unsolved. The way ball technology has influenced Pokemon biodiversity represents a complex ecological question. Easy capture has enabled translocation of species between regions, sometimes with devastating invasive species consequences. Escaped or released Pokemon establish breeding populations in areas they never naturally occurred, disrupting native ecosystems through competition or predation. Conservation biologists study these impacts extensively, trying to understand how ball technology has reshaped Pokemon biogeography over the past century. Some species have expanded their ranges dramatically thanks to human-mediated transport. Others have declined as easy capture enables overcollection of rare populations. The overall impact remains difficult to assess given countless interacting variables. Paradoxically, ball technology has also enabled conservation success stories by facilitating captive breeding programs for endangered species. Researchers can maintain genetically diverse breeding populations in controlled settings, using balls to transport Pokemon between facilities for breeding without the stress of traditional transport methods. Many species would likely be extinct without these interventions. The gene bank initiatives storing genetic material from rare Pokemon in specialized ultra-cold PC systems represent an insurance policy against extinction. These digital repositories contain data patterns for thousands of species, theoretically allowing reconstruction even if wild populations disappear entirely. However, the ethics of creating Pokemon purely from data without biological parents remains hotly debated. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, the way balls have shaped competitive battling deserves extended consideration. Tournament regulations specify legal ball types and standardize equipment to prevent unfair advantages. However, within these constraints, strategic ball selection creates subtle edges that separate elite competitors from merely skilled ones. The ball checking processes at major tournaments involve sophisticated scanning equipment that verifies ball authenticity and detects the illegal modifications. Trainers caught using compromised equipment face the immediate disqualification and potential bans from future competition. This enforcement maintains competitive integrity but creates additional pressure and logistics that complicate tournament participation. Ball sponsorships have emerged as significant revenue streams for top competitive trainers, with manufacturers paying for exclusive ball usage rights. These deals might require trainers to use specific ball types regardless of optimal strategy, creating tension between competitive success and contractual obligations. The most lucrative sponsorships typically allow flexibility while requiring branding visibility during televised matches. The fan culture surrounding ball collection has generated massive secondary markets for limited edition and event-exclusive balls. Collectors pay premium prices for balls with unique colors, patterns, or commemorative markings released during special occasions. These balls often never get used for actual captures, preserved instead as display pieces or investment assets. Ball customization services allow trainers to add personal touches to standard balls through legal external modifications. Engraving, custom paint jobs, decorative stickers, and other cosmetic alterations help trainers express individuality without affecting ball performance. Some customization artists have built substantial followings and command high prices for their distinctive styles. The ball repair industry provides essential services for trainers whose equipment suffers damage during adventures. Skilled technicians can often restore damaged balls to full functionality at costs well below replacement prices. However, Severe structural damage or electronic system failures might render balls irreparable, forcing trainers to transfer their Pokémon to new containers. The transfer process between balls requires specialized equipment that maintains Pokémon in stable energy form during the transition. This prevents the disorientation and stress that would result from fully converting to physical form, then immediately reconverting into a different ball. Professional transfer services ensure smooth transitions with minimal disruption to the Pokémon's comfort. Some Pokémon reportedly develop preferences for specific ball types based on their internal environments and comfort features. A Pokémon accustomed to luxury ball accommodations might seem slightly disgruntled if transferred to a basic Pokéball, though the effect remains subtle and difficult to measure objectively. Trainers sensitive to their partner's well-being often stick with premium balls throughout a Pokémon's life to avoid any potential dissatisfaction. The way balls interface with medical equipment during Pokémon health assessments requires careful protocol adherence. Pokémon centers can scan balls to assess their occupants' health status without requiring full release, enabling triage decisions during emergency situations. This non-invasive diagnostic capability has saved countless Pokémon lives by identifying critical conditions that might otherwise go undetected. Advanced medical balls under development could provide continuous health monitoring, alerting trainers to developing problems before they become serious. Vital signs tracking, toxin detection, and disease screening capabilities would transform balls from simple containers into comprehensive health management systems. However, these features add complexity and costs that limit near-term viability. The psychological dependency some trainers develop toward ball technology raises concerns among Pokémon relationship counselors and behavioral specialists. Over-reliance on balls for managing Pokémon, rather than developing genuine behavioral understanding, can create shallow partnerships that lack deep trust and communication. The best trainer Pokémon relationships balance technological convenience with authentic relationship building. Educational programs emphasizing ball-free interaction time encourage trainers to spend substantial periods letting their Pokémon roam freely, building bonds without mediation through technology. These initiatives recognize that while balls provide essential convenience, they shouldn't substitute for genuine companionship and mutual understanding. The way different trainer archetypes approach ball selection reveals interesting psychology about priorities and values. Collectors prioritize aesthetic variety and rarity over performance optimization. Competitive specialists analyze catch rate mathematics obsessively. Casual trainers might use whatever balls are cheaply available without deep consideration. Each approach creates valid but different relationships with the technology. The ball evolution timeline charts, showing how specific types were introduced across game generations, help newer trainers understand the technology's developmental history. Seeing which balls appeared when and how each one addressed specific needs or filled particular niches creates appreciation for the thoughtful design behind the current ecosystem. Regional ball availability variations mean that some types common in one area might be rare or unavailable elsewhere, creating trading opportunities and arbitrage possibilities. Trainers traveling between regions often stock up on balls that are cheap locally but valuable abroad, using this knowledge to fund their journeys through strategic ball trading. The way balls have become cultural icons, transcending their practical functions, speaks to their powerful symbolic resonance. They appear in art, fashion, architecture, and countless other contexts, having nothing to do with actual Pokémon capture. This cultural penetration demonstrates how thoroughly ball imagery has embedded itself in collective consciousness. Children's toys replicating ball functionality with plush Pokémon or electronic features introduce young people to capture mechanics before they're old enough for real trainer licenses. These toys build familiarity and excitement that shapes the next generation of trainers, ensuring the culture perpetuates across time. The ball's perfect spherical form carries symbolic weight in many philosophical traditions, representing completeness, unity, and infinite possibility. That such a shape became the standard for containing Pokémon feels appropriate on deeper levels beyond mere engineering convenience. The sphere suggests harmony and balance that align with healthy human-Pokémon relationships. As manufacturing technology advances, ball production costs have decreased substantially over time when adjusted for inflation. What once represented major purchases affordable only to established trainers have become accessible to nearly anyone with modest resources. This democratization has transformed who can participate in training culture, expanding the community dramatically. The social status implications of ball choice have shifted as prices have fallen. Where luxury balls once signaled wealth and success, they've become common enough that their status marker function has diminished. New forms of ball-based status signaling have emerged around the limited editions, vintage types, and exotic regional variants that remain genuinely scarce. The way balls represent commitment and long-term thinking creates interesting psychological effects on both capture decisions and ongoing partnership dynamics. Choosing to use a premium ball on a newly encountered Pokémon signals intention to invest in that relationship seriously. The ball type becomes a statement about how much the trainer values this particular partnership. Some trainers maintain matching ball types across their entire competitive team, creating visual unity that extends beyond simple aesthetics into team identity and branding. This coordination requires planning and resource investment, but creates memorable visual presentations during battles and competitions. The historical preservation efforts documenting early ball designs and manufacturing techniques serve important cultural functions, maintaining connections to traditions that contemporary mass production has largely displaced. Museums display antique apricorn balls alongside modern equivalents, helping visitors understand the technological journey while appreciating ancestral craftsmanship. The apprenticeship programs training new ball craftsmen in traditional methods ensure that knowledge doesn't disappear entirely as older masters retire or pass away. These programs attract both practical learners interested in marketable skills and cultural preservationists concerned about losing irreplaceable techniques. The combination creates vibrant communities dedicated to keeping traditions alive. Live demonstrations at cultural festivals and educational events showcase traditional ball crafting for audiences who've never seen the process. Watching a skilled artisan hollow an apricorn, mix fermentation pastes, and assemble a functional ball from natural materials creates appreciation that abstract descriptions cannot match. These demonstrations often inspire young people to explore traditional methods themselves. The documentation projects recording oral histories from elder craftsmen preserve not just technical knowledge, but the cultural context surrounding traditional ball production. These recordings capture stories about why specific techniques developed, how different communities approached similar challenges differently, and what philosophical beliefs shaped craftsmen's relationships with their work. The way modern trainers blend traditional and contemporary approaches creates hybrid practices that honor the past while embracing present convenience. A trainer might use mass-produced balls for routine captures while saving handcrafted apricorn balls for especially meaningful encounters. This selective traditionalism lets people engage with history on their own terms without rejecting modernity entirely. The global exchange of ball crafting techniques through internet communities has created fascinating cross-cultural pollination. A Cantonian trainer might learn Hisuian throwing techniques through online tutorials, while a Galarian craftsman incorporates Jottonian fermentation methods into their practice. This knowledge sharing enriches everyone involved while creating new hybrid traditions. The environmental indicators embedded in apricorn ball craftsmanship provide valuable data about historical climate patterns and ecosystem health. Analyzing preserved antique balls reveals information about past growing conditions, including temperature ranges, precipitation patterns, and soil composition. This environmental record extends back further than written documentation in some cases. The ritualistic aspects of traditional ball crafting that early communities developed weren't purely superstitious, but often reflected practical wisdom about optimal timing and conditions. Crafting during specific lunar phases might actually correlate with humidity levels that affected fermentation. Seasonal restrictions might reflect wood moisture content variations that influenced structural integrity. Modern analysis of these traditional practices often reveals unexpected rationality underlying apparent mysticism. What seemed like arbitrary ritual frequently turns out to be empirically effective technique passed down through generations before scientific explanation became possible. This recognition has increased respect for traditional knowledge among contemporary researchers. The way balls mediate first contact between trainers and wild Pokémon creates formative experiences that shape entire relationships. A gentle capture with appropriate ball selection and respectful approach establishes positive foundations. A traumatic capture involving repeated failed attempts and excessive force can create lasting wariness that takes extensive effort to overcome. Behavioral specialists study these first capture dynamics extensively, developing best practice recommendations for trainers who want to establish healthy relationships from the start. Their research emphasizes patience, appropriate ball selection, and minimizing stress during the capture process. Following these guidelines improves long-term outcomes measurably. The way balls enable catch and release practices for recreational catching has created its own subculture of trainers who capture Pokémon temporarily for the challenge, then release them immediately. These practitioners treat capture as an end in itself rather than means toward team building. The practice remains controversial, with critics arguing it stresses Pokémon unnecessarily, while proponents claim it develops skills without long-term impact. The research applications of temporary capture extend far beyond recreation into serious scientific inquiry. Field biologists routinely catch wild Pokémon for study, using balls to facilitate examinations that would be impossible with fully free creatures. These catch and release protocols must balance research value against animal welfare concerns in ethically complex ways. The ball's role in enabling long-distance Pokémon transport has facilitated research collaborations across regions that would otherwise be logistically impossible. A rare specimen discovered in Alola can be safely transported to Galar for specialized analysis, then returned to its habitat afterward. This capability has accelerated scientific progress dramatically. The quarantine protocols governing ball-contained Pokémon transport between regions aim to prevent invasive species and reduction while allowing legitimate scientific and personal transport. Inspectors verify that transported Pokémon match approved species lists and haven't been exposed to diseases that could threaten native populations. These systems imperfectly balance competing concerns about accessibility and biosecurity. The underground networks smuggling rare or illegal Pokémon between regions exploit loopholes in quarantine systems through sophisticated ball modification and falsified documentation. Law enforcement agencies struggle to detect these smuggling operations without inspecting every transported ball, which would create unacceptable delays for legitimate travelers. The cat-and-mouse game continues with neither side gaining decisive advantage. The way balls have democratized access to rare Pokémon through trading has fundamentally altered how trainers build collections and complete Pokédexes. Creatures once accessible only to trainers with specific geographic access or exceptional skills can now be obtained through global trading networks. This accessibility increases participation, but potentially reduces the perceived value of rare Pokémon. The trading protocols ensuring fair ball-to-ball exchanges prevent fraud, where trainers might send empty or incorrectly labeled balls. Verification systems check that traded balls contain the promised Pokémon before completing transfers. Thanks for watching. If these quiet stories helped you unwind, there's another video waiting on the left of your screen. Feel free to let it play in the background. You may learn something new as you drift off.